Consider the following. Someone stands before a crystal, a lump of gold, or the like. He or she looks at it. What happens if this person simply stares, simply looks at some object by means of the physical senses? A continual interplay arises between that person and the enchanted elemental being. What are enchanted both in matter and the human being are in some way related to one another. Let us assume, however, that our person merely stares at the object, so that he or she takes in only what is impressed upon the eye, EYE. The fact is, something is continually passing into human beings from these elemental beings, and this goes on from morning to night. As we look out into the world, hosts of elementals who were or are continually being enchanted in the processes of densification continually enter into us from our surroundings. Let us assume that as we stare at objects, we have not the slightest inclination to reflect about what we see or to let the spirit of things live in our souls. We take the easy road. We go through the world, but do not digest our experiences spiritually by means of thoughts and feelings. We remain mere spectators of the physical material world. In that case, the elemental beings enter into us and remain there. They have gained nothing in the world process and have merely transferred their seat from the outer world into us. But now let us suppose that we digest our impressions spiritually by thinking about them and by forming concepts about the underlying spiritual foundation of the world. That is, we do not merely stare at the object, but ponder its nature. We feel the beauty of things and ennoble our impressions. If we do this, what are we doing? As a result of our spiritual activity, we redeem the elemental being that streams toward us from the outer world, thus raising it to its previous state. We release the elemental being from its enchantment. Thus, through our spiritual activity, we can release beings who are enchanted in air, water, and earth, and lead them back to their former condition. Or we can imprison them again in our inner being, with no transformation having taken place in them. Throughout earthly life, elemental beings stream into human beings. To the extent that a person merely stares at the things that hold elemental beings, these beings simply enter the human being untransformed. To the extent that a person tries to work on things in the outer world through ideas, concepts, and feelings of beauty, that person redeems and frees these spiritual elemental beings. What happens to the elemental beings who have entered human beings? To begin with, they inhabit us. Even those who have been released dwell in us until we die. When we go through the gate of death, a distinction is made between those elemental beings who merely entered into us but have not been led back to the higher elements, and those who have been guided through our activity back to their earlier condition. Those who have not been transformed have gained nothing by wandering from the outer world into the human world, but the others who were transformed through human activity are able to return to their original sphere after the human being's death. During earthly life, human beings build a crossroad for elementals. After having passed through life in the spiritual world and returning through the gate of birth into a subsequent incarnation, a person is accompanied into physical existence by all the elemental beings who were not released. Those who have been released no longer accompany the person, but return to their original element. Thus we see how human beings have the capacity, in the course of their development, and in the way they establish a relationship to external nature, to free the elemental beings necessary for the creation of our earth, or to bind them even more to the earth than they were previously. What happens when someone looks at a material object and fathoms its true nature, so that the elemental being is released? Spiritually, the course taken is the reverse of what occurred before. Whereas smoke originally arose from fire, the person now spiritually creates fire from smoke. At death, the fire is released. Now, in the light of this primeval divine spiritual science, we can understand the profound spiritual meaning of ancient rituals of sacrifice. Imagine a priest at the sacrificial altar in those ancient times when religion was based on true knowledge of spiritual laws. Imagine a priest kindling